The wind howled through the streets of the village, carrying the scent of rain and smoke from the chimneys. The night was thick with fog, curling around the crooked houses and whispering secrets no one dared to hear. Inside one such home, a small, dimly lit cottage, a man stumbled drunkenly across the floor, shouting at a young woman who tried to steady herself. "She's deaf. She can't hear anything," he bellowed, waving his fists, spilling ale from a cracked mug. His words were jagged, harsh, full of accusation. The young woman, Elara, stood frozen in the corner, her hands clutched tightly against her chest. For as long as she could remember, the village had treated her as if she could not hear, as if her silence marked her as less than human. Yet, in that moment, something inside her stirred. The cottage door creaked open suddenly, pushed by the storm outside, and a figure stepped inside. The room seemed to shrink as the stranger entered. He was enormous, taller than any man Elara had ever seen, his presence commanding and quiet at the same time. His shoulders were broad, cloaked in a dark coat that brushed the floor, and his eyes shone faintly with a light that did not belong to the ordinary world. Her father's voice faltered for a brief moment as he noticed the newcomer. Who are you?" he slurred, trying to sound brave. But the bravado fell flat under the weight of the stranger's gaze. The stranger did not answer her father. He walked slowly toward Elara, each step measured, deliberate. The rain outside pounded against the windows as though in rhythm with the tension that now filled the room. Then, leaning close, the giant Alpha King spoke, his voice low and resonant. "I know you can hear." Elara's eyes widened. She had been told she could not hear, and yet his words reached her. They did not pound in her ears like a shout. They brushed against her mind like a soft wind, settling in a place she had long believed silent. Her heart began to race, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. Her father took a step forward, shaking his fist. She can't. Don't listen to him, girl." But Elara did not move. She was captivated, drawn to the stranger in a way she could not explain. She felt no fear, only a strange certainty, a pull toward this giant figure who seemed to see her not as a child lost in the world, but as someone whole and important. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly, surprising herself. Her voice sounded foreign even to her own ears, but it carried clearly to him. He tilted his head, studying her with eyes that were both fierce and tender. "I came because you are not like the others," he said, almost more to himself than to her. "You hear what no one else can. You understand what others ignore." The storm outside intensified, and the flickering candlelight threw shadows across the walls, making the room seem alive. Her father stumbled backward, muttering curses under his breath, but Elara remained, rooted in place. She took a hesitant step toward the giant Alpha King, and he lowered his massive hand, palm open, inviting her to come closer. She moved forward, every step feeling both terrifying and thrilling. Her father's protests faded into the background, drowned by the sound of the storm and the silent promise in the stranger's gaze. When she finally stood before him, she could feel the heat of his presence, the weight of his power. "You can hear," he repeated softly. "A statement, not a question. And soon, you will understand more than you ever thought possible." Elara swallowed, unsure of what to say. Her life until this moment had been one of limits, of being told what she could and could not do. But here, in the presence of this enormous, calm, and commanding figure, she felt the first stirrings of freedom. Her father, realizing he had lost control of the situation, lurched forward, trying to grab her arm. "You will not take her. She is mine," he shouted, the alcohol thick in his words. The Alpha King's eyes darkened, a shadow falling over his face. In a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, he said, "Step back. You do not understand the world that stands before you." Her father froze, unsure whether to move or retreat. He had always believed himself powerful in his home, a ruler of his small domain. But the presence of the Alpha King made him feel insignificant, fragile. The stranger turned his attention back to Elara, reaching out a massive hand. She felt the air shift as he moved, and a warmth spread through her chest, as if the very room had changed its gravity. "You are not deaf," he said again. "You hear differently, in ways the world does not expect. And that difference is your gift." Elara's breath caught. A gift? She had never thought of herself that way. Her life had been shaped by what she lacked, not by what she could do. But now, for the first time, someone saw her as whole, capable, even powerful. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside, a strange calm settled. The giant Alpha King guided her to a window, where the rain streamed down like silver threads. "The world will try to tell you who you are," he said, "but you must listen to the truth inside yourself. Only then will you know what you can truly hear, and what you can become." Elara looked up at him, seeing not just a stranger, but a being who seemed to carry the weight of kingdoms, of curses, of old, forgotten magic. She realized in that instant that her life had changed forever. The fear she had carried for so long did not vanish, but it became sharper, refined into focus. Her father, realizing he had no authority here, slumped into a chair, mumbling curses and threats that no longer reached Elara's ears. Her attention was entirely on the Alpha King, on the way his presence filled the room, on the strange, thrilling knowledge that she could hear him when no one else could. The Alpha King lowered his voice to a whisper, close enough that his words brushed her ear. "Tonight, you will sleep under my protection. The world outside is not safe for those like you." Elara nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and trust she could not name. The storm outside beat against the walls, but inside, a quiet bond began to form. She did not fully understand it yet, but she knew that her life had shifted on an axis, that her journey was beginning. As he guided her to a corner of the room where a soft blanket awaited, Elara caught a final glimpse of him. His eyes, glowing faintly in the candlelight, held both warning and promise. "Rest now," he said. "Tomorrow, you will learn to hear everything the world tries to hide." And for the first time, Elara realized that being able to hear was not just a gift, it was a choice. A choice to step into a world of power, danger, and wonder. The storm outside continued to rage, but inside, a fragile peace settled over the room. Elara closed her eyes, her mind alive with questions and possibilities, and for the first time, she felt that she was not alone. The Alpha King watched over her, silent and imposing, yet somehow tender, and the world outside seemed smaller, less frightening. She did not know what awaited her, but she knew one thing with certainty. The life she had known was gone, and a new one, dark and powerful, awaited her with open arms. And somewhere deep in the shadows of the storm, the Alpha King whispered one last time, a secret that only she could hear. "I know you can hear, and soon, the world will know too." Hook, cliffhanger. Elara drifts into sleep under his watch, but the storm outside carries something darker, something drawn to her newfound gift. The night is not over, and danger and destiny are already waiting. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the village shrouded in a quiet mist. The air smelled of wet earth and pine, sharp and alive. Elara awoke on the blanket the giant Alpha King had prepared for her. For a moment, she wondered if the previous night had been a dream, but the lingering warmth of his presence proved it real. The Alpha King stood by the window, looking out into the misty forest that stretched beyond the village. His silhouette was tall and imposing, and yet there was a gentleness in the way he watched the world, as if he could sense its hidden rhythms. "Elara," he said, his deep voice cutting through the quiet. "Come. Today, you will begin to understand your gift." She rose, brushing off the blanket. Her father had long since left the house, mumbling curses and threats as he stumbled through the village. But Elara's thoughts were elsewhere. She felt a pull toward the forest, a place that had always frightened her in stories but now seemed full of promise and danger alike. The Alpha King led her out through the fog-laden fields, Each step he took seemed to resonate with the earth, a vibration that she could feel as much as hear. Her heart pounded in her chest, not with fear, but with anticipation. "You must understand," he said, walking beside her. "Hearing is not always about sound. There are currents in the world, threads of movement and emotion that most cannot perceive. You, however, can feel them. You can understand them." Elara struggled to comprehend his words, but a part of her sensed their truth. For years, she had felt the world differently, things that others ignored, sounds that no one noticed. Now, with him, she realized those differences were a kind of power. The forest greeted them like an old friend. Trees stretched high into the sky, their leaves thick and dark, blocking the sun in patches. Moss covered the stones and fallen branches, softening their steps. Birds called from hidden perches, their songs oddly clear to her, though she had never noticed them before. "Listen," the Alpha King instructed. "Not with your ears, but with your mind. Feel the rhythm of the world. Feel what it tells you." Elara closed her eyes, focusing on the vibrations beneath her feet. The subtle shifts in the wind, the quiet hum of life all around her. Slowly, shapes and patterns began to emerge, the sway of branches, the motion of hidden creatures, even the tension in the ground. She could sense it all. It was as if the forest was speaking to her, in a language older than words. "You hear it," the Alpha King said, watching her closely. "Good. Now, feel more. Not just the forest, but me, my presence, my thoughts. Let them guide you." She opened her eyes and looked up at him, unsure how to do as he said. Yet, when she focused, she realized she could sense his emotions, strength, patience, and a faint, sorrowful loneliness. It was not spoken aloud, yet it spoke to her as clearly as if he had shouted. "Your gift is rare," he said softly. "It will allow you to survive where others cannot. But it is also dangerous. There are those who will seek to harm you because of it." As if to demonstrate, a sudden rustling came from the underbrush. Elara tensed, and the Alpha King stepped forward, placing a massive hand gently on her shoulder. The forest seemed to darken around them as a shadow moved between the trees. "Focus," he whispered. "Do not fear. Listen." Elara closed her eyes again. At first, all she sensed was confusion, the tangled noise of leaves and earth. Then, slowly, a pattern emerged. A shape, larger than a human, moving with deliberate intent toward them. Her chest tightened, but she remembered his words. This was not just fear. This was information. She pointed in the direction of the shadow. "It's coming from there," she said. Her voice trembled slightly, but it carried certainty. The Alpha King nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "Yes. Now act. Trust yourself." He stepped aside, letting her take the lead. Her body moved almost instinctively. She focused on the vibrations in the ground, the subtle shifts in the air. As the shadow drew closer, she realized it was not a human, but a creature, unlike any she had seen, a dark, wolf-like figure with eyes that glowed faintly red. The Alpha King raised a hand, and the creature halted, sensing his power. He spoke, his voice a low, commanding rumble. "Return to the shadows. You are not welcome here." The wolf hesitated, growling softly, but then backed into the darkness of the forest. Elara opened her eyes, amazed. She had not needed to fight. She had only needed to hear the truth of the creature's intent. "That was your first test," the Alpha King said, his gaze meeting hers. "You sensed it before it acted. That is the beginning of your training, but there will be more. Much more." They continued deeper into the forest. As they walked, he told her stories of the land of kings and queens who had fallen to betrayal, of warriors who had risen through courage and wisdom, and of curses that lingered like shadows, waiting for the careless to stumble into them. Each story carried a lesson, and each lesson taught her something about the hidden currents of the world. "Elara," he said, after a long silence, You must understand that the power you possess is not just a gift, it is a responsibility. You will encounter others who seek to use you, to control you, or to harm you. You must be strong, and you must trust yourself above all else. She nodded, feeling the weight of his words. For the first time, she felt that she could rely on someone who understood her, who saw her not as limited or broken, but as capable and alive. Night began to fall. The forest bathed in silver moonlight. Shadows stretched long and strange between the trees, and the forest seemed to hum with hidden life. The Alpha King stopped beside a small clearing, where a pool of water reflected the moon above. "This will be your resting place tonight," he said, gesturing to the clearing. "But you must remain vigilant. Darkness is always near. Listen to it. Understand it, and it will not harm you." Alara knelt beside the pool, watching her reflection ripple in the water. She felt different, stronger, aware, alive in ways she had never imagined. The Alpha King stood beside her, silent but present, a guardian and teacher both. Suddenly, a rustling came again, this time from the trees above. Alara tensed, her body instinctively alert. The Alpha King's hand brushed hers, steadying her. "Do not fear," he said quietly. "Feel. Understand. The world speaks in more ways than words. You are beginning to hear it." She closed her eyes, focusing on the subtle vibrations once more. This time, she sensed not just the forest, but a presence watching them, curious and cautious. She could feel its thoughts, its hesitations, its hunger for understanding. It was not hostile, only wary. "You are learning," the Alpha King said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "And soon, you will hear everything the world tries to hide." As the night deepened, Alara lay down on the soft moss, the sounds and vibrations of the forest surrounding her. She felt the presence of the Alpha King beside her, strong and protective. Yet there was something else, something she could not yet name, a connection that ran deeper than words or sight. Outside the clearing, shadows shifted, and the faint sound of movement carried on the wind. Danger, curiosity, and destiny all mingled in the night. Alara's heart pounded, not with fear, but with excitement and determination. She was beginning to understand that her life was no longer her own. It belonged to the forest, to the Alpha King, and to the power she had only just begun to awaken. Hook. Cliffhanger. Deep in the shadows, a dark presence watches. It knows of her gift, and will not wait long. When it strikes, Alara's newfound powers and trust in the Alpha King will be tested in ways she cannot yet imagine. The sun had barely risen when Alara awoke to the forest alive with sound, birds calling, leaves rustling, and the subtle hum of unseen creatures. Yet beneath it all, she felt something darker, an energy creeping through the trees like smoke. Her senses were sharper than ever. She could feel the vibrations of the earth, the subtle currents of wind, and the faint heartbeat of life around her. The Alpha King stood nearby, his massive form as steady and silent as a mountain. His eyes scanned the forest, alert to every movement, every sound, every presence. Though he rarely spoke, his attention was a constant reassurance, a shield against the unknown. "Alara," he said finally, his voice low and commanding. "Today, your training will be tested. You will face the first true challenge of your gift." She swallowed, a mixture of fear and excitement stirring within her. She had learned to hear more than words. She could sense the world itself. But this was different. Today, she would confront something sent to disrupt the delicate balance she had begun to understand. "Follow me," he instructed, moving toward a dense part of the forest. The canopy above blocked the sunlight, leaving the path dim and shadowed. Alara's heart pounded in rhythm with her steps, and she focused on the vibrations around her. Feeling the forest guide her way, after some time, they reached a small clearing where the earth seemed unnaturally still. The Alpha King stopped and crouched, placing his enormous hand on the mossy ground. "Something is here," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Can you feel it?" Alara closed her eyes, concentrating. Slowly, shapes began to emerge in her mind. A group of figures, moving cautiously, their intent unclear but their presence unmistakable. They were humans, likely mercenaries, and their purpose was unmistakable. They had come for her. "They are searching for me," she murmured, her voice trembling slightly. The Alpha King nodded. "Yes," he said. "And they will try to take you by force. You must listen. Not with your ears, but with your mind. Sense them before they act. Move before they strike." The wind shifted, carrying the faint metallic scent of weapons. Ilara's senses flared. She could feel the tension in the mercenaries' muscles, the hesitation in their steps, the fear and greed mixing like fire in their hearts. "Now," the Alpha King commanded, "show me what you have learned." Ilara took a deep breath, centering herself. She felt the ground beneath her, the air around her, and the pulse of the approaching danger. As the mercenaries stepped into the clearing, she moved, almost instinctively, guiding the Alpha King silently through the shadows. They remained unseen, moving as one with the forest itself. The mercenaries paused, sensing something was wrong. Their eyes scanned the darkness, but they could not detect the presence of the pair hiding among the trees. Ilara focused harder. Feeling the forest respond to her, she could sense the exact moment each mercenary would step, the rhythm of their breathing, the slightest shift in their weight. With a gentle gesture from her hand, she directed the Alpha King forward. His massive form moved like a shadow, silent and unstoppable. Within moments, the mercenaries found themselves surrounded by a forest that seemed alive, bending to the will of the unseen forces around them. Leaves fell in precise patterns, branches blocked paths, and the ground shifted subtly to unbalance their footing. Ilara's eyes widened in awe. She had guided them, not with weapons or words, but with the hidden language of the world. The mercenaries' confusion grew, and their fear became palpable, echoing in the subtle vibrations around her. The Alpha King stepped into the clearing, towering over the humans. His voice, calm but powerful, resonated through the air. "Leave. Now. Or face consequences you cannot survive." The leader of the group hesitated, fear overtaking his aggression. Slowly, the mercenaries began to retreat, leaving the forest and its secrets behind. Ilara exhaled, her body trembling from the intensity of her focus. "You did well," the Alpha King said quietly, placing a massive hand on her shoulder. "You listened. You understood. You acted. That is the beginning of true power." Ilara smiled, a mixture of relief and pride warming her chest. For the first time, she felt capable, alive, and important, not because anyone had told her so, but because she had proven it to herself. As they continued through the forest, the Alpha King shared more of his own story. He spoke of kingdoms lost to betrayal, of curses that twisted the hearts of rulers, and of loneliness that came with power. Though his words were sparse, each one carried weight. He did not ask for sympathy, nor did he seek admiration. He merely allowed her to see him as he was a being shaped by history, strength, and sorrow. Ilara listened, absorbing each lesson. She realized that her gift was not just a tool for survival, it was a bridge, connecting her to the Alpha King and to the unseen world around them. She could feel his respect growing, the subtle acknowledgement of her courage and understanding. Night began to fall once more, and the forest transformed under the light of the moon. Shadows stretched long, and the air was alive with the hum of unseen creatures. They reached a small hill, overlooking the forest below. The moonlight reflected off a distant river, turning it into a silver ribbon that wound through the trees. "This is where you will sleep tonight," the Alpha King said. "But the forest is not safe. Others will come, drawn to your gift. You must remain vigilant, and you must trust yourself." Ilara nodded, feeling the gravity of his words. She had begun to understand the responsibility her gift carried, and she knew the path ahead would be difficult. But she also knew she was not alone. As she settled on the soft moss, the Alpha King remained close, his presence a silent reassurance. For a moment, she allowed herself to relax, feeling the connection between them strengthen. It was not spoken aloud, but it was there, a bond formed through trust, courage, and shared understanding. Suddenly, movement flickered in the shadows below the hill. Alara's body tensed, and the Alpha King's hand brushed hers, steadying her. She closed her eyes, focusing on the subtle currents in the forest. The presence was cautious, curious, and powerful. It was not human, yet it was intelligent, watching them from the darkness. "You feel it?" the Alpha King whispered. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely more than a breath. "It's waiting, watching." "Good," he said. "Let it wait. We will learn more tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. You must be ready for what is coming." Alara lay back on the moss, her mind alive with possibilities. She could feel the forest around her, the presence watching them, and the steady heartbeat of the Alpha King nearby. For the first time, she realized that her life had changed forever. She was no longer a girl told she could not hear. She was someone who could understand the hidden language of the world. As sleep began to take her, the shadow in the forest shifted, moving closer. It was patient, calculating, and drawn to the power she possessed. Alara's gift had not gone unnoticed, and the night held dangers that were only beginning to stir. Hook, cliffhanger. In the darkness, the watcher in the shadows makes its first move. Alara's abilities will be tested in ways she has never imagined, and the bond with the Alpha King will be pushed to the limits of trust and courage. The forest is no longer just a place of learning. It has become a stage for danger, revelation, and the shaping of destinies. The forest lay silent under the light of the moon, but the stillness was deceptive. Every leaf, every branch, seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Alara's senses were alert, tuned to the hidden currents she had learned to feel. Beside her, the Alpha King stood, a massive shadow against the silver glow. Silent, but ready. "Alara," he said, his deep voice soft yet firm. "Tonight you will face the one drawn to your gift. Trust yourself. Trust what you feel." She nodded, gripping a small branch in her hand, not as a weapon, but as a guide. Her mind raced with anticipation and fear, but she felt no weakness. The forest itself seemed to pulse in her favor, its hidden life answering her awareness. From the shadows, a presence stirred, slow, deliberate, and dark. Alara sensed it before she saw it. A figure that was neither fully human nor fully beast, moving with grace and intelligence. Its eyes glowed faintly red, reflecting hunger, curiosity, and caution. She could feel the creature's intent, its watchfulness, and its impatience. "Focus," the Alpha King whispered, his hand brushing hers. "Do not be afraid. Listen to it. Understand it." Alara closed her eyes. The vibrations in the earth, the subtle shifts of the wind, and the faint hum of the creature all merged into a pattern she could interpret. It was testing them, probing for weakness. She could sense every twitch of its muscles, every flicker of its gaze. "Now," she whispered, almost to herself, "we wait for the right moment." The Alpha King nodded, silent as a mountain. Together, they became one with the forest, moving like shadows among shadows. The creature crept closer, drawn to the power Alara had begun to master. Yet with every step it took, it revealed more of its nature, intelligence, strategy, and a strange, wary respect. Alara felt the moment coming. She raised her hand slightly, signaling to the Alpha King. He understood immediately, moving with precision, guiding her through the encounter without overt action. The creature leapt suddenly, but Alara was ready. She felt its motion before it occurred, and in a fluid movement, she sidestepped, guiding it toward the Alpha King. He intercepted with a subtle motion, his presence alone enough to make the creature hesitate. It growled, not with rage, but with confusion, sensing a force it could not overcome. "You see?" the Alpha King said quietly. "You do not need to fight. You need only to understand." Elara's chest swelled with pride. She realized she had not acted out of fear or instinct, but out of awareness. The creature sensed it as well, and after a tense pause, it retreated into the darkness, leaving the clearing silent once more. "You did it," the Alpha King said, his voice carrying both approval and relief. "You have begun to master your gift. Few ever reach this stage." Elara smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from triumph and connection. She had faced a danger unlike any she had imagined, and she had prevailed not through force, but through perception and courage. They remained in the clearing for a long while, the forest settling around them. The moonlight shimmered on the leaves, and the soft hum of nocturnal life filled the air. Elara felt the Alpha King's presence beside her, steady and protective, and she realized that she had come to trust him completely. "Tell me," she asked softly. "Why me? Why did you come for me?" The Alpha King gazed at her, his expression unreadable in the silver light. "Because the world is changing," he said slowly, "and those with gifts like yours are rare. They are precious. They must be protected, nurtured, and guided. You are not merely a child of the village. You are a child of the forest, of the hidden currents, of power that has existed for centuries." Elara felt a shiver of awe and responsibility. Her life had shifted on an axis she could barely understand, yet she no longer feared it. She was alive in ways she had never imagined. As the first light of dawn began to touch the sky, the Alpha King turned to her. "There will be challenges ahead," he said. "But tonight, you have proven yourself. You have shown courage, wisdom, and understanding. And more importantly, you have shown that you are ready to accept what comes next." Elara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. For the first time, she saw herself not as powerless, but as someone who could shape her destiny. She had been tested, and she had endured. The Alpha King extended his hand. "Come," he said. "We have more to do. The world outside the forest will not be so forgiving, but together, we will face it." She took his hand, feeling its strength and warmth. In that moment, a bond formed between them, unspoken but undeniable. It was not merely trust, it was respect, understanding, and a connection deeper than words. As they moved through the forest, Elara felt the air shift. The dark presence from earlier had not disappeared entirely. It lingered at the edge of her perception, curious and cautious. But she no longer feared it. She had learned to listen, to sense, to act. She had learned that power was not about strength alone, but about understanding and awareness. The Alpha King spoke again, his voice calm and steady. "You are ready to face what the world will send. But remember, Elara, your gift is not a shield against life, it is a guide. You must use it wisely, and you must always listen to what the world tells you." Elara smiled, feeling the truth of his words. The forest around them was alive with movement and sound, but it was no longer frightening. It was a companion, a teacher, and a reflection of her own growth. Hours passed, and the sun rose higher, bathing the forest in golden light. Birds sang, leaves shimmered, and the distant river glinted like silver. Elara and the Alpha King reached the edge of the forest, where the village lay quiet, unaware of the transformations that had occurred under the canopy of trees. "Do you understand now?" the Alpha King asked, stopping at the boundary. "You are stronger than you know. You are more than what they told you. And your gift is part of a greater world than you ever imagined." Elara looked up at him, her eyes bright with determination. "Yes," she said firmly. "I understand. And I am ready." The Alpha King smiled faintly, a rare expression of warmth and pride. "Good. Then we will continue. There is still much to learn, much to face. But tonight, you have taken the first true step into your destiny. As they prepared to enter the village, a sudden movement caught Ilara's attention. From the edge of the trees, a pair of glowing eyes watched them, intelligent and deliberate. The dark presence from before had returned. But this time, it did not strike. It only observed, as if waiting for the moment when Ilara and the Alpha King would be fully ready. "You see it?" the Alpha King whispered. Ilara nodded. "Yes, but I'm not afraid." "Good," he said. "Fear will cloud your gift. Trust yourself. Trust the forest. Trust me." She felt a calm settle over her, stronger than the tension of the night before. The bond between them had grown unshakable. No longer was she the girl her father claimed could not hear. She was Ilara, daughter of the forest, student of hidden truths, and companion to the Alpha King. The first light of dawn spilled over the village, illuminating rooftops and streets. But Ilara and the Alpha King moved like shadows, unseen and untouchable. The dangers of the forest would return, and challenges would come. But for now, they had claimed a small victory, a night of understanding, trust, and quiet triumph. As they disappeared into the forest once more, the watcher in the shadows followed at a distance. It would return, as all things drawn to power do. But Ilara was ready. She had learned to listen, to act, and to understand. She had discovered strength she had never imagined, and she had discovered that with the Alpha King by her side, she could face whatever darkness awaited.